"Sit at my table, just the two of us," said the passionate CEO to his employee during the company party. What happened next changed their lives forever. A story of passion and secrets that will touch your heart. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like and comment where you're watching from. The sound of animated conversations echoed through the hall of the Grand Oak Club, where Czech crystal chandeliers illuminated tanned faces and calculated smiles. It was the traditional year-end party of Tech USA, the largest technology company in the country, and Mia Caldwell nervously adjusted the black Hugo Boss dress she had bought especially for the occasion. At 35, her wavy brown hair fell perfectly over her shoulders, framing a face that blended her Italian grandmother's determination with the tropical softness inherited from her Miami-born mother. "Mia, you look stunning tonight," Jessica, her colleague from the project department, commented as she approached with a glass of Moet and Chandon in hand. "That dress looks perfect on you." "Thank you, Jess," Mia smiled, but her dark eyes discreetly scanned the room, searching for him. Ryan Mitchell, CEO of Tech USA, had a habit of circulating the hall, personally greeting each employee. At 42, he led the company with a unique blend of charismatic charm and strategic vision that had transformed a startup born in a garage in Silicon Valley into the largest technological powerhouse in America. The hall was decorated with arrangements of white and gold roses, creating a sophisticated atmosphere that contrasted with the warmth of December in Miami. Executives chatted in small groups, some near the dark mahogany bar, others in strategically placed Italian leather armchairs scattered throughout the space. The aroma of gourmet hors d'oeuvre mingled with imported perfumes, creating a symphony of scents that spoke of corporate success. "There he is," Jessica whispered, discreetly pointing to the center of the hall. Ryan looked impeccable in his navy blue Hugo Boss tuxedo, the gray at his temples giving him an air of maturity that only intensified his natural magnetism. His deep laughter echoed as he conversed with the CFO and some international investors. Mia had always admired his ability to make anyone feel special during a conversation, a skill that had been crucial in building the network of relationships that sustained the company. "Mia," the familiar voice made her turn. It was Carlos, the marketing manager, approaching with his trademark confident smile. "You need to meet the folks from Forbes USA. They're interested in doing a piece on our latest project." For 5 years, Mia had built her reputation as a project manager with a mix of technical competence and corporate diplomacy. Her ability to transform complex ideas into practical solutions had caught everyone's attention, especially after the success of the automation project she had led the previous year. The daughter of an engineer from Washington, D.C. and a literature teacher from Miami, she combined her father's technical precision with her mother's communicative sensitivity. "Of course, Carlos. It would be a pleasure." She followed her colleague, but something in her chest tightened. In recent weeks, she had noticed different glances from Ryan during meetings. They weren't inappropriate looks. He always maintained the utmost professionalism, but there was an intensity there that left her unsettled. "Mia Caldwell," Carlos said to the journalists, "our star in project management. She's the one who revolutionized our customer service system." As she spoke with the reporters about artificial intelligence algorithms and user experience, Mia felt torn between two versions of herself. There was the competent, articulate professional who answered technical questions with surgical precision, and there was the vulnerable woman, still carrying the scars of relationships sacrificed at the altar of professional ambition. "Excuse me for interrupting," the familiar deep voice made everyone turn. Ryan had approached the group with his characteristic smile. "Mia, can I steal you for a few minutes? There's something important I'd like to discuss." Her heart raced, but she maintained her composure. "Of course, Ryan, excuse me," she said to the journalists, who watched her walk away with barely concealed curiosity. Ryan led her through the hall, passing groups of executives until they reached a more secluded area, where there was a round table made of fine wood with 2 leather armchairs. The spot was partially isolated by a decorative screen, offering privacy without compromising their professional reputations. "Please have a seat," he said, pulling one of the chairs out for her with courtesy. "Would you like something? Champagne? Water?" "I'm fine, thank you." Mia crossed her legs, maintaining the upright posture she had learned in the etiquette classes her mother insisted she take as a teenager. "You said you had something important?" Ryan sat across from her, and for the first time in 5 years, she saw him genuinely nervous. He drummed his fingers on the table, a habit she had only noticed during presentations to foreign investors. "Mia, over the past 5 years, I've observed your journey in the company. Your dedication, your ability to innovate, but mainly," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "your integrity. Those are rare qualities in the corporate world." She felt a pang of disappointment. She was expecting something personal, but realized it was about professional matters. "Thank you, Ryan. That means a lot coming from you. What I'm going to propose may sound unusual," he continued, leaning slightly forward. "I need a partner, not just an employee or a manager. I need someone to share with me the responsibility of changing the American technology market." The music from the party seemed distant now. Mia felt as if she were in a bubble, isolated from the rest of the world. "Partner? Ryan, I don't understand. I have a revolutionary project, something that could transform the way America interacts with technology and agriculture." His eyes sparkled with a passion she had never seen before. "But I need someone I can trust completely. Someone who shares the same vision of social impact." The sounds of laughter and conversation in the background contrasted with the seriousness of their discussion. Mia felt the intensity of the moment. She sensed her intuition, a legacy from her grandmother who always said, "Trust what your heart whispers," warning that this conversation would change her life forever. "What kind of project?" she asked, her voice coming out lower than intended. Ryan smiled, and in that smile, she saw not only the brilliant CEO, but the man passionate about his ideas. "We're going to connect rural areas to the city in a way that has never been done in the USA. We will empower small producers and transform the tables of Americans." The party continued around them, but Mia knew her life had just taken a completely new direction. The table of destiny was set, and she was about to discover that some proposals change everything, including the heart. 3 weeks after that transformative night, Mia found herself on the 22nd floor of the corporate building of Tech USA, in a conference room that Ryan had turned into a true headquarters for the project. The glass walls offered a panoramic view of Faria Lima Avenue, where the incessant movement of Miami created an urban backdrop that dramatically contrasted with the rural revolution they were about to unleash.
"Coffee?"
Ryan asked, pouring himself a cup from the Italian machine he had installed especially for long work sessions. The intense aroma of roasted beans filled the air, mingling with the scent of fresh paper and colorful markers scattered across the table. "Please," Mia replied, adjusting her reading glasses as she reviewed spreadsheets of data on American family farms. In recent weeks, she had immersed herself so deeply in the project that she dreamed of algorithms and small rural producers. "Ryan, these numbers are impressive. Did you know there are over 4 million family farms in the USA? And most sell their produce to middlemen, who take 60% of the profit," he added, approaching the table with 2 steaming cups. His fingers brushed briefly against hers when he handed her the coffee, an accidental touch that made Mia's heart race slightly. The room was organized like an operations center. 4 high-definition monitors displayed maps of the USA, agricultural production graphs, mock-ups of the digital platform, and financial spreadsheets. Whiteboards covered 3 walls, filled with flow diagrams, user personas, and detailed timelines written in Ryan's distinctive handwriting, a mix of doctor's scrawl and engineer's precision that she had learned to decipher. "Tech Rural," Mia said, pronouncing the name they had chosen for the platform, "will be more than just a marketplace. It will be a social revolution." "Exactly." Ryan walked over to the main board, where a map of the USA was pinned with colorful markers. Imagine, Mia, a blueberry farmer in North Carolina can sell directly to a family in San Francisco. A cooperative of women from a rural community in Florida can market their products without intermediaries. Mia watched him speak, noticing how his eyes lit up when discussing the social impact of the project. There was a genuine passion there that went far beyond business success. Ryan came from a middle-class family in Springfield, the son of a history teacher and a nurse. Despite his financial success, he had never lost touch with his roots. "We have 3 months to develop the MVP," she said, referring to the minimum viable product. "The timeline is tight, but it's feasible if we stay focused." "About that?" Ryan hesitated, placing his cup on the table. "Mia, this project will require total dedication. Nights, weekends, trips to rural areas. Are you sure you're ready for this?" Oh. The question carried a weight that went beyond the professional. Mia knew he was questioning not only her availability, but her emotional commitment to something that could consume their lives for the coming months. "Ryan," she stood up, walking to the window where she could see the city bustling below. "For the past 5 years, I've dedicated my life to this company. I've lost relationships, cancelled trips, sacrificed personal moments. If I'm going to do this again, it has to be for something that truly matters. And do you believe this matters?" His voice sounded closer. When she turned, she realized he had stepped closer, just a few feet away. "I believe," she replied without hesitation. "My grandmother Elizabeth came to the USA with nothing, only the determination to build a better life. She sold her sweets door to door in Springfield. If she had access to a tool like Tech Rural, she would have revolutionized the candy market in the region." Ryan finished with an understanding smile. "Exactly." Mia felt a deep connection in that moment, as if they were sharing something much more intimate than a business project. The intercom interrupted the moment. "Mr. Mitchell, the programming team has arrived for the meeting," announced the secretary's voice. "We'll be down shortly," Ryan replied, but his eyes remained fixed on Mia for a few more seconds. The development team consisted of 6 programmers, 3 seniors and 3 juniors, all carefully selected by Mia. There was Robert, a 28-year-old from Miami specializing in mobile, Carla, a 31-year-old from Texas expert in back-end, and John, a brilliant 25-year-old from North Carolina skilled in user interface. "Team," Mia said, naturally taking the technical lead, "you are about to work on the most important project of your careers. We are not just creating an app. We are democratizing market access for millions of Americans." Robert adjusted his glasses, clearly excited. "Mia, I saw the wireframes you sent. The idea of integrating geolocation with agricultural seasonality is brilliant. And the gamification to encourage sustainable purchases," Carla added. "This could create a real movement for conscious consumption." For the next 2 hours, they detailed every feature of the platform. There would be differentiated profiles for producers and consumers, an evaluation system based on sustainability criteria, integrated chat for direct negotiation, and an innovative logistics system that would connect local transporters. "The most challenging part," John explained, "will be creating an interface simple enough for a rural producer without much experience. Technological knowledge should be easily accessible." "Exactly," Mia agreed. "We need to think about Mrs. Smith, 55, who grows organic lettuce in Green Valley. She needs to be able to register her products in under 5 minutes." Ryan watched Mia coordinate the team with admiration that grew each day. Her ability to transform complex concepts into practical solutions was extraordinary, but what impressed him most was her genuine empathy for the end users. "We have a significant logistical challenge," Ryan said when the technical meeting ended. "How do we ensure that perishable products reach urban consumers fresh?" "Partnerships with local transport companies," Mia replied immediately, "and strategic distribution centers. I've already researched. There are transportation cooperatives across the country that could benefit enormously." "You've thought of everything," he murmured, genuinely impressed. "Not everything yet," she admitted, returning to the data. We need to solve the payment issue. Many producers don't have traditional bank accounts. Venmo, Ryan suggested. Venmo, yes, but we also need to integrate with rural credit unions and digital banks specializing in agriculture. As the sun began to set, painting the office in golden hues, they realized they had been working for over 10 hours, almost non-stop. The city below lit up, creating an urban spectacle that served as the backdrop for the birth of something revolutionary. "Mia," Ryan said, organizing the papers scattered across the table, "thank you for embarking on this journey with me." "Thank you for trusting me," she replied. And for the first time since they met, the silence between them was not uncomfortable, but charged with possibilities neither was ready to name. The third month of the project arrived with the intensity of a summer storm in Springfield. Mia had gotten used to waking up at 5 in the morning, reviewing reports while sipping her black coffee and arriving at the office before 7. The routine had become a sacred ritual that kept her focused amid the whirlwind of decisions each day brought. "Good morning, everyone," she said, entering the war room, as they had nicknamed the space that had become the beating heart of the Tech Rural project. Robert was already there, fingers flying over the keyboard, while 3 monitors displayed lines of code that resembled a digital symphony. "Mia, we have a problem," Robert announced without taking his eyes off the screen. "The geolocation API isn't accurately identifying rural properties. The urban system doesn't work in the countryside." "Explain further," she asked, moving closer and inhaling the familiar aroma of strong coffee that always permeated the morning air. "The GPS coordinates of rural properties are inaccurate. A farm might be 10 acres, but the system only marks a central point. How will a consumer know if they're buying from a small family farm or a large estate?" Mia closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. It was exactly the kind of technical challenge that energized her. "Let's talk to the USDA. They have detailed mapping of all rural properties in the country. That could take weeks of bureaucracy," Carla observed, just arriving with a cup of blueberries and a worried expression. "Then let's find a creative solution," Mia said, walking to the whiteboard. "What if we create our own verification system? The producers themselves could outline their properties using their cell phone GPS, walking the perimeter." "Brilliant!" exclaimed John, getting excited. "And we can gamify this? The more detailed the mapping, the greater the producer's credibility on the platform." The door opened, and Ryan entered, carrying a tray with pastries from the French bakery downstairs. In recent months, he had developed the habit of bringing morning coffee for the team on Mondays, a gesture that strengthened the sense of community. "How's our digital revolution today?" he asked with his characteristic smile, but Mia noticed a subtle tension in his shoulders. "Solving technical challenges," she replied. "But I have a feeling there's something else bothering you." Ryan hesitated, looking at the team focused on their screens. "Mia, can we talk privately?" They headed to the small adjoining room that Ryan had transformed into his personal office for the project. The walls were decorated with photos of small rural producers they had visited during field research, smiling faces representing the motivation behind all the technical work. "We've received information that an American company, Farm Connect, is developing something very similar to our project," he said, closing the door behind him. Mia felt her stomach tighten. "How similar?" "Digital marketplace for family farming, eliminating intermediaries, focusing on sustainability." Ryan walked to the window, watching the city's hustle and bustle. "They have far greater resources than we do and are already operating in 3 Latin American countries. But they don't know Brazil like we do," Mia replied immediately, her Italian determination surfacing. "They don't understand the cultural nuances, regional diversity, legal specifics. That may not be enough if they get here first." Mia stepped closer to him, noticing how the morning light highlighted the grey strands at his temples. "Ryan, from day one, you told me this project was about social impact, not just profit. If our motivation is genuine, it will shine through on the platform." "You're right," he said, turning to face her. It's just, this project means a lot to me, Mia. More than anything I've ever done at Tech USA. Why? The question came out more intimate than she intended. Ryan hesitated, as if deciding how much to reveal. My grandfather was a coffee producer in Springfield. He spent his whole life selling to middlemen who paid him a pittance. He died without ever receiving fair value for his work. The revelation created a new intimacy between them. Mia understood that, just as she carried the legacy of her Italian grandmother's determination, Ryan carried the mission of honoring his grandfather's memory. "Then let's accelerate the timeline," she said, determined. "Instead of 3 months for the MVP, how about 2.5 months? That would mean working weekends." "I'm willing. What about you?" The look they exchanged at that moment was different from all the previous ones. There was a complicity there that transcended the professional, a partnership that strengthened with each challenge faced. The intercom interrupted the moment. "Mr. Mitchell, Jessica from Mia's team is here." "She says it's urgent." Mia frowned. Jessica rarely sought her out in the project office, respecting the confidentiality surrounding the development of Tech USA. "Let her in," said Ryan. Jessica appeared at the door with a strange expression, a mix of nervousness and something Mia couldn't identify. "Mia, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need to talk to you. It's about the selection process for the innovation leader." "What selection process?" Mia looked confused from Jessica to Ryan. "The one you applied for," Jessica said, avoiding her friend's gaze. "HR just announced the finalists." Mia felt the world spin. "Jessica, I didn't apply for any process. But your name is on the list of the 5 finalists." Jessica handed over a printed paper. "And mine too." The silence that followed was deafening. Mia looked at the paper, seeing her name listed alongside Jessica's and 3 other colleagues for a leadership position in the innovation area of Tech USA. "There must be a mistake," Mia said, looking at Ryan for explanations. "There's no mistake," Jessica said, finally meeting her friend's eyes. "I applied 2 weeks ago, and when I found out you were also competing, I was confused, but I didn't apply." Mia felt a mix of frustration and betrayal. "Jessica, you know I'm dedicated to the Tech Rural project. That's exactly why I applied," Jessica admitted, her words spilling out nervously. "Mia, you've always had more opportunities than I have. You've always been the favorite of the bosses. I thought that if you were focused on this secret project with Ryan, I would finally have a chance." The room felt too small to contain the tension that settled in. Mia felt her confidence shaken in one of the professional relationships she valued most. Jessica had been her ally in the toughest moments of her career, the person with whom she shared frustrations and successes. "Jessica," Ryan said, his voice maintaining a diplomatic tone, "I believe there has been a misunderstanding. HR must have included Mia automatically based on her history." "I'll check this immediately." "No," Mia said, finding her voice. "You don't need to check anything. If my name is on the list, I'm going to participate in the process." "Mia," Ryan seemed surprised. "If there's a leadership position in innovation available, I have just as much right as any other employee to compete," she said, looking directly at Jessica. "May the best candidate win." Jessica nodded, but Mia sensed that something had irreparably broken between them. The friendship that had been built over years of professional partnership would now always carry the shadow of competition. After Jessica left, Mia and Ryan were left alone in the heavy silence that filled the room. "You don't have to participate in this process," he said softly. "I do," she replied, walking back to the main room. "If I'm going to be your partner in Tech Rural, I need to prove that I deserve this position. For myself and for everyone else." Ryan watched her leave, realizing he had witnessed a defining moment in Mia Caldwell's life. The woman who returned to the war room was no longer just the competent manager he had invited to sit at his table. She was a leader determined to prove her worth, regardless of personal costs. The 5th month brought a radical change in Mia's routine. The air-conditioned office of Tech USA was replaced by the humid heat of North Carolina, where she found herself walking down a dirt road leading to the Nova Esperanza settlement. The GPS on her phone had stopped working 20 kilometers ago, but Mr. Johnson, the local driver Ryan had hired, knew every curve of the area like the back of his hand. "Dr. Mia," Mr. Johnson said, a 60-year-old man with a sun-weathered face and calloused hands from work. "Mrs. Johnson has been waiting for you since early this morning." She was all excited when she heard people from New York were interested in her work. Mia adjusted the straw hat she had bought in the first town they passed through and checked for the 10th time if the recorder was working. In the last 2 weeks, she had visited 15 farms in 4 different states, collecting stories, understanding needs, and discovering a part of America that existed only in her childhood memories from visits to a distant uncle's farm. The settlement appeared like an impressionist painting on the horizon. Simple brick houses with yards where chickens roamed freely, gardens surrounded by bamboo, and a community energy she had never experienced in urban life. Children ran to meet the car, waving and shouting greetings that echoed through the clear morning. "Mrs. Johnson," Mr. Johnson called, stopping in front of a light blue house. "I brought the doctor from New York." A black woman in her 50s emerged from the house, wiping her hands on a colorful apron. Her smile was as warm as the North Carolina sun, and Mia immediately felt a connection that transcended socioeconomic differences. "Welcome, my daughter," Mrs. Johnson said, embracing Mia as if she were a dear relative. Come in, come in. I made fresh coffee, and there's cheese bread coming out of the oven." The simple house was an example of efficiency and coziness. The living room combined rustic wooden furniture with floral curtains, while the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the scent of baking cheese bread. On the walls, family photos shared space with certificates of participation in agricultural cooperatives. "Mrs. Johnson," Mia said, sitting at the kitchen table, "I would like you to tell me about your production. What do you plant? How do you sell? What are your biggest challenges?" "Oh my." Mrs. Johnson served coffee in simple ceramic cups. "Here we grow a little bit of everything. Lettuce, tomatoes, bell peppers, okra. Everything organic, without any chemicals. I learned from my mother who learned from hers." "And how do you sell your produce?" Mrs. Johnson's face darkened slightly. "Oh, that's the problem. We sell to Mr. Thompson, who has a truck. He comes here every Thursday and takes everything for a price that, well, it's enough to survive, but not enough to thrive, you know." Mia made mental notes while savoring the best cheese bread of her life. "What if you could sell directly to consumers in the cities? At a fair price?" "Oh, my goodness," exclaimed Mrs. Johnson, her eyes shining. "That would be a dream." "But how, my dear? We don't have the education for that. We don't know anyone in the city. What if there was a simple way? A tool that connected you directly to consumers?" For the next 2 hours, Mia talked with Mrs. Johnson about technology, discovering that the producer had a basic smartphone that she mainly used to talk to her children who lived in the capital. Gradually, Mia introduced concepts of the digital platform, adapting the technical language for accessible communication. "Look at this," said Mia, taking Mrs. Johnson's phone. "Imagine if you could photograph your products, write a small description, and voila, people from Atlanta, New York, anywhere, could see and buy directly from you." "But I don't really know how to use this internet stuff," admitted Mrs. Johnson shyly. "That's why the tool needs to be as simple as making coffee. 3 steps: photo, description, price, done." The afternoon was dedicated to meeting other producers from the settlement. Mia spoke with Mrs. Smith, a leafy greens specialist, Mr. Thompson, who raised free-range chickens, and young Jessica, 25, the daughter of settlers who had returned from the city with a technical course in agriculture and dreams of modernizing the family production. "Jessica," Mia said as they chatted on the porch of the young woman's house, "you seem to be more familiar with technology than the other producers." "Yes. I use Instagram, WhatsApp, those things," Jessica replied. "Playing with a strand of hair. I even thought about selling our products online, but I don't really know how to do it right. What if I told you that soon there will be a platform created specifically for that, made with you in mind? That would be amazing." Jessica got excited. "I could even help the older ones to use it." That night, staying at the inn in the nearest town, Mia called Ryan. It was almost 11 o'clock, but she knew he would still be working. "Mia, how were the conversations today?" His voice sounded anxious over the phone. "Ryan, we need to rethink the entire interface," she said, lying on the simple bed in the room that smelled of lavender. "The language we're using is too technical. These producers need something intuitive, like a conversation between neighbors. Tell me more." For 40 minutes, Mia reported every conversation, every insight, every obstacle discovered. She described how Mrs. Johnson held the phone, how her eyes lit up when she understood a feature, how the community naturally organized itself into a network of mutual support. "You know what impressed me the most?" she said, looking out the window at the starry sky she could never see in New York. "The generosity. Mrs. Johnson insisted that I take bags of vegetables for you and the team. She said it was a gift for those who care about us." "That confirms we're on the right track," Ryan replied, his voice filled with emotion. "Mia, you have no idea how comforting it is to hear that our vision makes sense in practice." "We have work ahead," she continued. "We need to create video tutorials, simplify the registration process, think about limited connectivity. In many places here, the internet signal is unstable. We'll adapt everything. Every piece of feedback you're bringing is pure gold." There was a comfortable pause in the call, filled only by the sound of crickets outside and the distant echo of a guitar being played in some nearby house. "Mia," Ryan said softly, "thank you for embarking on this journey. I know leaving the comfort zone of New York wasn't easy." "Actually," she admitted, surprised by her own honesty, "it's been one of the most transformative experiences of my life. I'm discovering a country that has always existed, but that I had never really seen." "What do you mean?" "Ryan, in the city we connect through apps, social networks, technology. Here people connect through stories, shared food, mutual help. They don't need a social network because they already live in one. And how does that change our platform?" Mia smiled, even knowing he couldn't see her. "It changes everything. We're not just creating a marketplace. We're creating a bridge between two worlds that need to know each other better." After they hung up, Mia stayed awake for another hour, processing the day's discoveries. The next morning, she would visit a heritage community that maintained centuries-old agricultural traditions. With every conversation, every story heard, she felt she was not just collecting data for a technology project. She was being educated about her own country by people whose wisdom never appeared in corporate reports or executive presentations. The phone vibrated with a message from Ryan. "Sleep well. Tomorrow more adventures await you." "And Mia, you are making a difference." She smiled, hugged the pillow that smelled of line-dried sheets, and fell asleep to the sound of a rural symphony that she was beginning to understand as the soundtrack of a quiet revolution. The 6th month brought a twist that Mia could never have anticipated. She was reviewing contracts in the war room when Ryan entered with an expression she had never seen before, a mix of perplexity and something that looked like embarrassment. In his hands, he held a folder of documents that bore the logo of the most prestigious law firm in New York. "Mia, I need to show you something," he said, closing the door behind him. "I just received information about our main investor who, well, that completely changes the context of our project." She lifted her eyes from the laptop screen, immediately noticing the tension in her shoulders. "What kind of information?" Ryan placed the folder on the table, hesitating before opening it. "Dr. Edward Caldwell, the majority partner of the investment fund backing Tech Agri. Have you heard that name before?" Marina's blood ran cold. Caldwell was her maiden name, the name she carried from her father who had passed away when she was 15. "Ryan, Caldwell is my last name." "Why are you asking this?" "Because," he opened the folder, revealing detailed genealogical documents, "Dr. Edward Caldwell is your father's second cousin, Anthony Caldwell." The room seemed to spin around Marina. She held on to the edge of the table, trying to process the information. "That's impossible. My father never mentioned having relatives involved in investments. According to these documents, there was a serious family feud in the 80s. Your paternal grandfather and Dr. Edward's father were brothers who fell out over an inheritance of land in Atlanta. The family split and lost contact. Marina grabbed the documents with trembling hands. They were birth certificates, professionally crafted family trees, and private investigation reports tracing family connections that had been lost for decades. Ryan, are you telling me that our main investor is my relative, and that he knows this? That's exactly what I'm trying to find out. He walked over to the window, observing the afternoon bustle of Miami. I received a call from him this morning requesting an urgent meeting. He said there are family matters that need to be discussed before releasing the next installment of the investment. Family matters. Marina felt a mix of anger and confusion rising in her chest. Ryan, this changes everything. If he knew from the beginning that I was involved in the project, that may have been the real reason he decided to invest, Ryan finished, turning to face her. Marina, I need you to know I had no knowledge of this connection when I invited you to be my partner. The sincerity in his voice was undeniable, but Marina felt as if the ground was disappearing beneath her feet. Everything she had worked for in the past months could be based on a family manipulation she didn't even know existed. I want to be part of this meeting, she said, her voice coming out stronger than she felt inside. Marina, maybe it's better if I talk to him first. Understand the motivations. No, the word came out with a force that surprised them both. Ryan, if this project is being financed by family matters of which I was unaware, I need to hear it directly from him. 2 hours later, they found themselves in the elevator of the commercial building where Dr. Edward Caldwell's office was located. Marina had changed out of her casual work attire into a navy blue suit, a professional armor that helped her feel in control of the situation. The office was exactly what one would expect from a successful investor. Italian designer furniture, contemporary Brazilian art on the walls, and a panoramic view of the city that demonstrated power and influence. But Marina barely registered the luxurious details, fully focused on the man who stood up to greet them. Dr. Edward Caldwell was a 68-year-old man, completely white hair, elegant demeanor, and eyes that immediately reminded Marina of old photographs of her father. The resemblance was both unsettling and comforting. Marina, he said, extending his hand with a complex expression, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person. You have your father's eyes. Dr. Edward, she replied, keeping her voice steady. I would like to understand exactly what our family relationship is and how it connects to the investment in Tech Agree. He gestured for them to sit in the leather chairs, arranged around a glass coffee table, straight to the point. Also a characteristic of the Caldwell family. Dr. Edward, Ryan interjected, I would like to clarify that I had no knowledge of this family connection when I invited Marina to the project. I know that, Ryan, and that's exactly why I decided to invest. Edward poured water into crystal glasses for the three of them. Marina, your father and I were cousins, but our families drifted apart due to a dispute over land in Atlanta that our grandparents left as inheritance. My father never mentioned this, Marina said, accepting the glass but not drinking. Anthony was too proud to talk about the feud, just like I was. Edward sighed deeply. When I learned that his daughter was working at Tech USA and that you were developing a project focused on small-scale farming, I saw an opportunity to rectify past wrongs. What kind of wrongs? Marina's question carried a tension that filled the entire room. Edward stood up and walked to a shelf from which he retrieved an old folder. The lands that caused the feud between our families were inhabited by small-scale farmers for generations. When they were sold to settle the inheritance, those families lost their homes and livelihoods. He handed the folder to Marina, who opened it to reveal black and white photographs of farming families, land sale documents, and newspaper clippings about land disputes from the 80s. 53 families were evicted, Edward continued, his voice heavy with remorse. Your father tried to prevent the sale. He wanted to find a way to keep the families on the land. I, in my youthful arrogance, only saw the financial value. Marina studied the photographs, seeing faces that reminded her of people she had met on her travels through the countryside. Children playing in simple backyards, men working in fields, women tending to gardens. Entire families whose history had been interrupted by disputes that were not theirs. "That's why you're financing Tech Agri," she said, finally understanding. "To try to make amends for what happened 40 years ago." Exactly. When I discovered that Anthony's daughter was working on a project that could empower small-scale farmers, I realized that the destination was giving me a chance for redemption. Ryan, who had remained silent, finally spoke. "Dr. Edward, does this mean that the investment has personal motivations, not just commercial ones?" "It has both," Edward replied honestly. "I believe in the commercial potential of the project. But my main motivation is indeed historical reparation." Mia closed the folder, feeling the weight of decades of family history that she had uncovered in a single afternoon. "And what if the project fails? If we can't achieve the social impact we hope for, then at least we will have tried," Edward said, returning to his armchair. "Mia, I don't expect you to forgive me for the mistakes of the past, nor to accept this investment as a form of complete reparation. But I hope you understand that I genuinely believe in what you are building." The meeting continued for another hour, detailing technical and financial aspects, but Mia could barely concentrate on the numbers. Her mind was processing the revelation that she carried not only her own professional ambitions, but also the weight of a family history marked by land disputes and social justice. As they left the office, she and Ryan walked in silence to the parking lot. New York pulsed around them with its characteristic urban energy, but Mia felt displaced between two worlds, her family's rural past and the technological future she was helping to build. "How are you feeling?" Ryan asked as they reached the car. "Confused, overwhelmed, and strangely motivated," she admitted. "Ryan, does this change anything for you? Knowing that our funding has this personal dimension?" He hesitated before responding, choosing his words carefully. "Mia, what has motivated me from the beginning is your competence and vision. Discovering that you have a personal connection to the cause we are advocating, that only strengthens my conviction that we made the right choices." She looked at him, seeing sincerity in his eyes. "Even if it means our project carries the weight of repairing past mistakes." "Especially because of that," he replied. "Mia, we all carry family stories. The difference is that yours can help write a better future for thousands of people." As they drove back to the office, Mia looked out the window at the city transforming at dusk. She knew that the discovery of that day would change not only her understanding of the Tech Agri project, but also her own identity. She was no longer just an ambitious executive working at a promising startup. She was the heir to a complex family history with the opportunity to transform past wounds into bridges for the future. The 7th month arrived with the brutality of a tropical storm. Mia was testing the beta version of the Tech Agri platform when her phone rang with the insistence of an emergency. On the other end of the line, the tense voice of Caroline from Human Resources carried news that would make that day memorable as a turning point. "Mia, I need to speak with you and Ryan urgently," Caroline said, skipping the usual pleasantries. "It's about your closeness. Some concerns have reached the department." Mia felt her stomach tighten. "What kind of concerns, Caroline?" "It's better if we talk in person. Can you come to my office in 15 minutes? When she hung up, Mia looked around the war room, where the team was focused on the final adjustments of the platform. Robert was typing furiously, fixing last-minute bugs. Carla was analyzing performance reports. John was perfecting the mobile interface, all oblivious to the storm that was approaching. "Ryan!" she called, discreetly signaling for him to follow her. He was reviewing contracts with logistics suppliers, but immediately sensed the urgency in her tone. "What happened?" "HR wants to see us now." Caroline's office was on the 18th floor, in a more formal area of the company where the relaxed startup atmosphere gave way to corporate sobriety. Framed mission statements and values of Tech USA decorated the walls painted in neutral gray. creating an atmosphere that always left Mia slightly uncomfortable. Caroline, a 45-year-old woman with short blonde hair and red-framed glasses, greeted them with a professional expression that couldn't completely hide her embarrassment. "Please have a seat," she said, gesturing to the chairs in front of her desk. "I need to address some issues that have come to my attention regarding the work dynamics on the Tech Agri project." Mia and Ryan exchanged quick glances. In recent months, they had developed a non-verbal language that allowed for silent communication in tense moments. "Caroline," Ryan said, maintaining a professional tone, "if there are any concerns about our work or productivity, I'm sure we can clarify." "It's not about productivity." Caroline consulted some notes on her tablet. "Ryan, there have been reported situations suggesting an inappropriate closeness between you and Mia. Closed-door meetings, work trips alone, staying in the office late. All situations related to the project," Mia replied immediately, feeling a growing indignation. "Caroline, we are working on a confidential and strategic project. It's natural for us to have private meetings. I understand that, Mia, but I've also been made aware of comments about, how can I say this, an emotional intimacy that may be compromising professional objectivity." The room fell silent for a few seconds. Mia felt the blood rush to her face, a mix of anger and embarrassment at being questioned about feelings she hadn't fully processed herself. "Caroline," Ryan said, his voice gaining a firmness that Mia recognized from the tensest meetings with investors, "I would like to know who made these comments and what they are based on. You know I can't reveal sources, Ryan, but I can say they are close individuals who have observed changes in your behavior." Mia clenched her fists, trying to control her frustration.
"What kind of changes?"
"Lingering glances during meetings, whispered conversations, a connection that goes beyond the professional." Caroline paused, clearly uncomfortable. "Mia, I've also been informed that you have been attending meetings regarding your candidacy for the innovation leader position. There are concerns about a conflict of interest." "Conflict of interests?" Mia leaned forward. "Caroline, my professional competence cannot be questioned due to speculation about my personal life." "No one is questioning your competence," Caroline quickly replied. "But we need to establish protocols to avoid any appearance of favoritism or compromise of objectivity." Ryan crossed his arms, a posture that Mia had learned to recognize as his way of preparing for a battle. "What kind of protocols?" Caroline consulted her notes again. "Meetings always with third parties present, official communication via email with copies to others involved, and a temporary pause on traveling for work together." "That's ridiculous," Mia exclaimed, losing her professional composure. "Caroline, we are 2 weeks away from the pilot launch of Tech USA. How are we going to coordinate a project of this magnitude with these restrictions?" "I understand the frustration, Mia, but these are temporary measures to protect both you and the company." "Protect from what?" Ryan asked. "From a revolutionary project that could transform American agriculture. From an extremely productive professional partnership." Caroline sighed deeply. "Ryan, you are the CEO of the company. Mia is an employee under your supervision who is competing for a promotion. Any personal relationship between you creates an inevitable ethical conflict." "Personal relationship?" Mia felt as if she'd been punched in the stomach. "Caroline, who said there is a personal relationship?" "Mia, I've been working in human resources for 20 years. I recognize the signs." Caroline's voice softened slightly. "And I'm not saying there is anything inappropriate happening. I'm saying the perception has already been created, and it could jeopardize both the project and your careers." The silence that followed was filled only by the distant hum of the air conditioning and the muffled sound of traffic 20 floors below. Mia felt exposed, as if her most private feelings had been examined under a corporate microscope. "What are our options?" Ryan finally asked. "Implement the protocols I mentioned until the project launch," Caroline replied. "After that, we will reassess the situation, and if we refuse?" Mia's question came out more challengingly than she intended. "Then I will have to escalate the issue to the board," Caroline said, clearly preferring to avoid that possibility. Mia looked at Ryan, seeing the same frustration in his eyes that she felt. Months of intense work, genuine connection, and a partnership based on mutual respect and shared goals were being reduced to office gossip and speculation about personal motivations. "Fine," Ryan finally said. "We will implement the protocols temporarily." "Ryan!" Mia stared at him, surprised by the capitulation. "Mia, we have a project to launch. We cannot allow administrative issues to compromise the work of the entire team." She understood the logic, but felt betrayed by how easily he had accepted the restrictions. "All right, temporary protocols." "Great," Caroline said, clearly relieved. "I will email the specific guidelines later today." As they left the room, Mia and Ryan walked silently through the corporate corridors. The environment that had once felt familiar now felt hostile, filled with curious glances and whispered conversations that seemed to stop when they passed. "Mia," Ryan said when they reached the elevator, "this doesn't change anything about the project or our partnership." "Doesn't change." She pressed the button harder than necessary. "Ryan, we have just been forced to treat our collaboration as if it were something shameful. It's temporary. It's humiliating." Mia stared at their reflection in the polished elevator doors. "And you know what bothers me the most? It's that maybe they are right." "Mia, no, Ryan, maybe there really is something between us that goes beyond the professional. And maybe that is compromising our objectivity." The elevator arrived and the doors opened, but neither of them moved to enter. Other employees passed by them, some greeting with smiles that seemed overly forced. "If there is something," Ryan said quietly, "it doesn't diminish the quality of our work or the importance of the project. But it creates a vulnerability that our enemies can exploit," she replied, finally stepping into the elevator. As they descended to the project floor, both knew that something had changed irreversibly. The HR protocols were merely symptoms of a larger issue. They had become more than business partners, and that created complications that no corporate manual could resolve. When the doors opened on the 22nd floor, Mia took a deep breath and put on her professional mask. "Let's get to work, Ryan. We have a revolution to launch." But as they walked back to the war room, both carried the uncomfortable awareness that their technological revolution had also become a personal revolution that was just beginning. The 8th month exploded into Mia's life like a bomb detonated in slow motion. It was a rainy Tuesday in August when she received a phone call that would completely change her perspective on the future. On the other end of the line, a familiar female voice, laden with nostalgia, instantly transported her back to a past she had tried to leave behind. "Mia, dear, it's Luciana Marks, your former boss at Innovatech." Mia nearly dropped the coffee cup she was holding. Luciana had been her mentor in the early years of her career, a brilliant executive who had been fired from Tech USA 3 years earlier under controversial circumstances, a reorganization that many considered unjust and politically motivated. "Luciana, what a surprise." Mia stepped away from the table where the team was working on the final adjustments for Tech USA. "How are you?" "It's been so long." "I'm great, Mia. In fact, I'm better than ever." Luciana's voice carried a confidence that Mia remembered well. "I'm calling because I have a proposal that might interest you." She walked to the window, watching the rain create irregular patterns on the glass. "What kind of proposal?" "How about we have lunch today? There's so much to discuss, and I prefer to do it in person." 2 hours later, Mia found herself at the Avy, a sophisticated venue in the heart of New York, where high-level executives sealed deals over plates of Italian pasta and imported wines. Luciana was waiting for her at a reserved table, impeccable in a navy blue Chanel blazer, blonde hair perfectly styled. In a modern cut that accentuated her natural confidence, "Mia!" Lucy stood up for a warm embrace. "You look radiant. Working at Tech USA clearly suits you." "Thank you, Lucy. You look great too." Mia sat down, immediately noticing that her former mentor seemed more powerful, more assertive than she remembered. "Tell me, what have you been doing since you left Tech USA?" "Oh, my dear, it was the best thing that ever happened to me," Lucy said, pouring sparkling water for both of them. "Do you remember Agritech Solutions? The American multinational trying to enter the Brazilian market?" "Of course. They provide technological solutions for agriculture." "Exactly. Well, they hired me as the CEO of the Brazilian branch." Lucy smiled with satisfaction. "And I'm building a top-notch team to revolutionize the agricultural technology market in the country." Mia felt a chill in her stomach. "What kind of revolution?" "A digital platform that connects rural producers directly to urban consumers, eliminating intermediaries and valuing family farming." Lucy paused, observing Mia's reaction. "Sound familiar?" "Lucy," Mia swallowed hard. "You're talking about the project I'm developing at Tech USA." "I know, dear. And that's exactly why I'm here." The waiter interrupted the moment, taking orders in fluent Italian that contrasted with the growing tension at the table. Mia could hardly focus on the menu, her mind racing to process the implications of the conversation. "Lucy, how did you find out about Tech Agri?" "Mia, the tech market in New York is smaller than it seems. Information circulates, especially when it involves innovative projects." Lucy elegantly cut a piece of mushroom risotto. "But I'm not here to steal ideas. I'm here to offer you the opportunity to lead a similar project, but with infinitely superior resources." "What kind of resources?" "A budget of $15 million for the first year. A team of 50 developers. Offices in New York, Atlanta, and Washington, D.C. Lucy paused dramatically. "And you as CEO, with a salary of $2 million a year, plus equity." Mia nearly choked on her wine. $2 million? That's double what you're currently earning, isn't it? Lucy smiled. "Mia, Agritech Solutions recognizes your talent. They know you're the perfect person to lead their expansion in Brazil. But Lucy, that would mean—" Mia hesitated, struggling against the obvious temptation. "That would mean abandoning the Tech Agri project. It would mean elevating your ideas to a level that Tech USA could never offer." Lucy leaned forward, her voice taking on an urgent tone. "Mia, you have too much talent to be limited by scarce resources and other complications. Other complications. Dear, I still have contacts at Tech USA. I know about the issues you're facing with HR. I know about the protocols that have been implemented." Lucy gently touched Mia's hand. "You deserve to work in an environment where your competence is the only thing questioned." Mia withdrew her hand, feeling exposed. "Lucy, these are internal company matters." "Of course they are, and I completely respect that." Lucy returned to eating, maintaining a casual tone. "I'm just saying that at Agritech Solutions, you would be judged solely by results. No internal politics, no conflicts of interest, no emotional distractions." The word distractions cut Mia like a blade. She knew exactly what Lucy was referring to, and the precision of the comment deeply unsettled her. "Are you offering me the position because you believe in my work, or because you want to weaken Tech USA?" Mia asked directly. Lucy laughed, a genuine and unmalicious sound. "Always direct to the point. I've always admired that about you." She paused, considering her response. "Both, Mia, I genuinely believe in your talent, but I also won't hide that it would be satisfying to surpass Tech USA in the market they are trying to dominate. And if I refuse, then we'll find someone else to lead the project." Lucy shrugged. "But it would be a shame, because you are clearly the ideal choice." Lunch continued for another hour, with Lucy detailing aspects of the proposal that sounded almost too good to be true. A private office, a budget to hire whichever team she wanted, total creative freedom, and the chance to implement her ideas without the bureaucratic limitations of Tech USA. "I need an answer by Friday," Lucy said as they asked for the check. "Agritech wants to start operations in Brazil this year." "Friday." "Lucy, that's in 3 days." "I know it's short notice, Mia, but opportunities like this don't come around every day." Lucy signaled for the waiter to bring the check. And considering the current situation at Tech USA, maybe it's the right time for a change. When they said goodbye on the sidewalk in front of the restaurant, Mia felt as if she had been hit by a hurricane. The rain had stopped, but the heavy clouds still threatened the New York sky, creating an atmosphere that perfectly matched her emotional state. In the taxi back to the office, she tried to process Lucy's proposal. It was an extraordinary professional opportunity, the kind of offer that could define her entire career. But it also meant abandoning months of intense work, leaving behind a team that relied on her, and leaving Ryan. The last realization hit her like lightning. Her hesitation wasn't just about the Tech Agri project or loyalty to the company. It was about leaving Ryan at a moment when their partnership had become something much more complex and significant than either of them had planned. When she arrived at the office, Mia went straight to the bathroom, needing a few minutes to reorganize her emotions before facing the team. Looking at herself in the mirror, she saw a woman at the peak of her career, but torn between professional ambition and something she still couldn't fully name. Her phone buzzed with a message from Ryan. "How was lunch? Everything okay?" She typed and deleted 3 different responses before simply replying, "We'll talk later." But even as she sent the message, Mia knew that later was going to be a lot more complicated than she had anticipated. This would be one of the most difficult conversations of her professional life. In 3 days, she would have to decide between the security of an extraordinary opportunity and the uncertainty of a project that had become much more than work. It had turned into a personal mission shared with someone who meant far more than she was willing to admit. The 9th month arrived with the brutality of a revelation that would destroy any illusion of security that Mia Caldwell might still have. It was a September morning when she arrived at the office to find the Agritech Solutions team in total panic. Ryan was pale in front of 3 monitors. Jessica was speaking on the phone in a tone of urgency that Mia had never heard before, and John was typing furiously as if his life depended on it. "What is happening?" Mia asked, dropping her bag to the floor as she sensed the atmosphere of crisis. "Mia, thank God you're here." Ryan turned to her with wide eyes. "Our database has been compromised. Someone accessed confidential information from Agritech Solutions." Mia's blood ran cold. "What kind of information?" "Everything." Jessica's voice sounded desperate as she hung up the phone. "Source codes, marketing strategies, partner-producer lists, financial data. Everything was copied between last night and this morning." Mia felt as if the ground was disappearing beneath her feet. Months of work, unique technological innovations, carefully built relationships with farming families, everything had been exposed. "Are you sure it was an external leak?" "That's the most disturbing part," John said, pausing his frantic typing. "The access was made using valid internal credentials. It wasn't an external hack. It was someone from inside the company." The door swung open abruptly, and Ryan entered like a hurricane, his face distraught in a way Mia had never seen. He was holding a laptop and a stack of papers, clearly having rushed from his office on the executive floor. "Mia, do you already know?" he asked, his voice laden with controlled fury. "I just got here. Ryan told me the basics." She stepped closer to him, noticing that his hands were trembling slightly. "Ryan, did you find out who it was?" "Worse than that." He placed the laptop on the table and opened a screen displaying system access logs. "I found out where the data went." On the screen, a series of file transfers clearly showed the destination of the stolen information, Agritech Solutions. The name of Lucy's company appeared repeatedly in the download records, creating irrefutable evidence of corporate espionage. "It can't be," Mia whispered, feeling genuine nausea. "Lucy wouldn't do this." "Lucy?" Ryan turned to her with a look of total surprise. "Mia, do you know anyone at Agritech Solutions?" The question hit Mia like a punch in the stomach. Suddenly, she realized she had walked into a trap from which there was no escape without revealing the job offer she had received 3 days earlier. Information that, in the current context, would seem extremely suspicious. "Ryan," she hesitated, seeing the eyes of the entire team fixed on her. Lucy Marks reached out to me this week. She's the new CEO of the Brazilian branch of Agritech. The silence that followed was deafening. Ryan, Jessica, and John exchanged glances that Mia interpreted as growing suspicion. Ryan stood still for a few seconds before speaking. When exactly did she reach out to you? Tuesday. We had lunch together. Mia felt as if every word was a confession of guilt. Ryan, she was my mentor years ago. I thought it was just a meeting between old colleagues. And what did you talk about? Ryan's voice was becoming dangerously controlled. Mia knew she had reached the moment of truth. Lying now would be devastating if discovered later, but telling the truth about the job offer could completely destroy the team's trust. She offered me a job, Mia admitted, her voice coming out almost like a whisper. The explosion that followed was exactly what she had feared. Ryan pushed his chair back forcefully. Jessica muttered something that sounded like a curse, and John simply shook his head in disappointment. But it was Ryan's reaction that hurt her the most. An expression of betrayal so deep it felt physical. A job, he repeated slowly. What kind of job, Mia? CEO of the Brazilian branch, to lead a project similar to Agritech Solutions. The words came out as if they were being ripped from her throat. Ryan, I didn't accept. I didn't even seriously consider it. Didn't seriously consider it? His voice rose slightly. Mia, didn't you think it was relevant to mention that our main competitor was trying to recruit you? I was going to tell you. I was waiting for the right moment. The right moment. Ryan interrupted, clearly indignant. Mia, we've worked together for months. We trust you, and I haven't broken that trust. Mia turned to face the team. Guys, you know me. Do you really think I would betray the project? We don't know what to think anymore, Jessica said, her voice cold. Mia, you had full access to our systems. If you passed information to Agritech, I didn't pass anything. Mia's frustration exploded. Ryan, do you really believe I would do that? Ryan walked to the window, watching New York bustle below. When he turned, his expression had hardened into a professional mask that Mia hadn't seen in months. Mia, I need to temporarily remove you from the project while we investigate the leak. Remove me? The words hit Mia like a slap. Ryan, are you officially suspecting me? I'm following security protocols. Anyone with access to the leaked information needs to be investigated, including you. The question came out sharper than Mia intended. Including all of us, Ryan replied, but there was a coldness in his voice that didn't exist when he referred to the other team members. Mia looked around the room that had become her second home over the past few months. The whiteboards covered with her ideas, the colorful post-its with reminders written in her own hand, the photos of the farming families Mia had met during her travels through the countryside. Everything seemed to accuse her of a betrayal she had not committed. All right, she said, trying to maintain her dignity. How long will this investigation last? As long as necessary, Ryan replied, avoiding looking directly at her. Mia grabbed her bag and walked toward the door, stopping only when she was about to leave. Ryan, when they find out it wasn't me, I hope they remember this moment. That they remember how easy it was to throw away months of partnership because of a suspicion. Mia, he began, but she had already left. In the hallway, Mia walked quickly toward the elevator, trying to keep her composure until she was outside the building. Employees greeted her as usual, oblivious to the drama that had just unfolded on the 22nd floor. When she finally reached the parking lot and locked herself in her car, Mia allowed the tears of frustration and anger to finally fall. She wasn't crying for the unjust suspension or the professional humiliation. She cried because she had seen in Ryan's eyes a distrust that revealed how fragile their trust had been. Her phone rang. It was Lucy. Mia, dear, I saw the news about problems at Tech USA. Are you all right? What news? Mia quickly wiped her eyes. Oh, you don't know? A piece just came out in TechCrunch USA about a data leak at Agritech. Interesting coincidence, don't you think? Mia hung up the phone without responding, realizing she had fallen into a trap far more elaborate than she had imagined. Lucy hadn't just stolen information, she had orchestrated the entire situation to destroy her relationship with Tech USA and force her to accept Agritech's offer. As she drove through the congested streets of New York, Mia made a decision that would change the course of the entire investigation. She wouldn't passively wait for her innocence to be proven. She would find out who had betrayed the project and why. And when she did, Ryan and the team would have to face the embarrassment of having doubted the person who had dedicated herself the most to the success of Agritech. But first, she had a call to make. It was time to find out exactly what Lucy wanted and how much she was willing to pay to get it. The 10th month arrived like the climax of a corporate thriller that Mia had never imagined she was living. 2 weeks had passed since her suspension, and she had turned her apartment in Greenwich Village into a true private investigation center. The dining table was covered with printed documents. Her laptop displayed complex data analysis spreadsheets, and 3 portable whiteboards she had purchased filled the room, covered in connections drawn with colored markers. "Good morning, Mark," she said on the phone, speaking with an old colleague who worked in the cybersecurity area at Tech USA. "Did you get that information I asked for?" "Mia, this is dangerous," Mark replied, his voice heavy with concern. "If they find out I'm passing you internal logs..." "Mark, you've known me for 5 years. You know I would never betray the company." Mia walked to the window, watching the morning hustle of the city. "I just need to confirm a theory." "All right, but this stays between us." He hesitated before continuing. "The logs you requested show something interesting. Access to Agritech's data didn't come from a single source. There were multiple small accesses over 3 weeks, using credentials from 5 different employees." Mia felt a chill run down her spine. 5 employees? Which ones? "That's the problem, Mia. The credentials were valid, but the accesses happened outside the normal working hours of those employees, as if someone had cloned the accesses, or as if someone had enough administrative access to simulate the credentials of other users," Mia murmured, a terrible suspicion beginning to form in her mind. After hanging up, Mia approached the central board, where she had mapped out the entire timeline of events. Lucy's proposal had arrived exactly 1 week before the leak was discovered. The suspicious accesses had started 3 weeks prior, and there was a pattern she had initially ignored. All the main accesses occurred after 8 p.m., a time when only senior executives typically remained in the office. Her phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Mia Caldwell." "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Carlos Edward. I'm an investigative journalist from the New York Times. I'd like to talk to you about the situation at Tech USA." Mia hesitated. "What kind of conversation?" "I received information that you were unjustly suspected in the data leak case. I also received evidence that there's a much larger conspiracy involving executives at Tech USA itself." Mia's heart raced. "What kind of evidence?" "It's better to discuss in person. Can you meet me at Café Girondino in Greenwich Village in an hour?" An hour later, Mia was sitting in a discreet corner of the café, watching a man in his 40s approach with a leather folder and a serious expression. Carlos had the typical investigative air of seasoned journalists, attentive eyes that seemed to capture every detail and a posture suggesting someone used to unearthing corporate secrets. "Mia, thank you for coming," he said, sitting down across from her. "I know this must be an extremely difficult situation for you." "How did you know about my situation?" "I have sources within Tech USA, and recently those sources brought disturbing information about internal manipulations that go far beyond the Agritech leak." Carlos opened the folder, revealing documents that made Mia choke on her coffee. They were prints of internal emails, financial reports, and phone call logs tracing a conspiracy involving 3 senior executives at Tech USA. "Mia, do you know Frank Anderson, the company's CFO?" "I do. He's been there for over 10 years. And did you know he has gambling debts of nearly $2 million? Carlos showed bank statements evidencing suspicious transfers, or that he has been receiving regular payments from a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. Mia studied the documents, feeling a growing nausea. "Are you suggesting that Frank sold..." "Did you get the information?" "Not only did he sell it, he orchestrated the entire scheme. Charles flipped through several pages, revealing a detailed timeline. Mia, Frank knew about your meeting with Lucy even before you returned to the office that Tuesday. How is that possible? Because he was monitoring your phone calls. Look here, Charles pointed to technical records. The moment Lucy called you, Frank had access to the number, call duration, and approximate location. Mia felt as if she were in a spy movie. But why frame me? Because you were the closest person to Ryan and the one who knew the technical details of the project best. Framing you would create suspicion of an internal leak and divert attention from the true source. Charles continued revealing layers of the conspiracy. Frank had collaborated with two other executives, Sarah Miller, the HR director, and Paul Harris, the IT manager, to systematically extract confidential information and sell it to competitors over 2 years. Sarah Miller? Mia remembered the meetings about protocols. She was the one who created the restrictions between me and Ryan. Exactly. By creating tension between you, she weakened the team's cohesion and facilitated internal manipulation. Charles showed emails that evidenced coordination between Sarah and Frank. Mia, you and Ryan were the targets of a psychological destabilization operation, and Paul Harris had technical access to simulate other users' credentials. Mia added, the pieces of the puzzle finally fitting together. Correct. They used credentials from 5 innocent employees, including yours, to mask the real origin of the accesses. Mia was silent for a few minutes, processing the magnitude of the betrayal. People she had trusted for years had systematically conspired not only against the company, but specifically against her and Ryan. Charles, why are you telling me this? What do you want in return? But I want you to help me expose this corruption, he said directly. But first, I need you to know, Ryan is not involved in the conspiracy. In fact, he was the main target. What do you mean? Frank and the others knew that Ryan would never agree to sell information. So they planned to destroy the Agritech Solutions project, frame you to distance you from him, and then sell the technology to competitors. Mia felt a mix of relief and fury. And Lucy, is she involved? Lucy is just an opportunist who took advantage of information that came to her. The real enemy has always been within Tech USA. What do you need me to do? Charles smiled for the first time. Help me record a confession. Frank doesn't know we've discovered the scheme. If you approach him with a proposal to sell more information, he'll incriminate himself, trying to do more business with me, Mia completed. Exactly. Mia, you have the chance to clear your name, save the Agritech Solutions project, and expose a corruption that has been harming the company for years. Mia looked out the cafe window, seeing the normal lives of people passing by, oblivious to the corporate drama unfolding. 2 weeks earlier, she was an unjustly suspended executive. Now, she was about to become an unlikely spy in an operation that could change the fate of everyone at Tech USA. When do we start? She asked, surprised by her own determination. How about tomorrow? Charles closed the folder. Mia, when this is over, you won't just be the creator of Agritech Solutions. You'll be the woman who saved the company from internal corruption. As she walked back to the car, Mia felt a mix of nervousness and excitement she hadn't experienced since the early days of the project. In 24 hours, she would have the chance to prove her innocence and uncover the truth that would free not only her, but also Ryan from the manipulation that had nearly destroyed their partnership. But first, she needed to prepare for the most important performance of her career, convincing Frank that she was willing to betray everything she believed in. The 11th month arrived like dawn, after the most devastating storm Mia had ever faced. It was 6 in the morning on an October Thursday when she found herself in the parking lot of Tech USA, watching the building where she had built her career, and nearly lost it. In her hands, she held a USB drive containing recordings that would forever change the fate of several people. The operation with journalist Charles had been an absolute success. Frank, in his arrogance, had confessed not only his involvement in the information-selling scheme, but also detailed how he had manipulated Sarah Miller and Paul Harris to execute the plan. The recordings were clear, irrefutable, and devastating. Mia, the familiar voice made her turn. Ryan was standing a few meters away, clearly just having arrived. His clothes were wrinkled, his eyes red from fatigue, and she realized he had probably spent another sleepless night working on the project that was now at risk of dying, along with the trust destroyed between them. Ryan, she approached slowly, noticing how he hesitated between coming closer or keeping his distance. "Can we talk?" "Mia, if you came to say goodbye or—" he started, but she interrupted him. "I came to show you who really betrayed Agritech Solutions," she extended the USB drive, "and to apologize for doubting you as much as you doubted me." He looked at the device with confusion. "What is this?" "The truth. Ryan, Frank, Sarah Miller, and Paul Harris created a scheme to sell information that lasted 2 years. They didn't just sell data from Agritech Solutions. They orchestrated the entire situation to separate us and destroy the project." Ryan's face went through a series of emotions: confusion, shock, anger, and finally a relief so profound that his shoulders visibly relaxed. "Mia, are you sure about this?" "I have the recorded confessions. Ryan, they manipulated us from the beginning. The HR restrictions, the suspicions about our closeness, even Lucy's job offer, it was all coordinated to weaken us." He took the USB drive with shaking hands. "How did you find out?" "Investigating on my own." "Ryan, in the last 2 weeks, I've learned more about corporate investigation than in my entire career." She smiled for the first time in weeks. "And I've learned something even more important. I've learned how much this project means to me." "How much you mean to me?" The words hung in the morning air, laden with a vulnerability neither had allowed themselves to express before. Ryan stepped toward her, and Mia could see in his eyes not just professional relief, but something much more personal and profound. "Mia, he began, but was interrupted by the arrival of 2 police cars in the parking lot. "They came to pick up Frank," Mia explained. "Dashik, Charles Anderson, the journalist who helped me, has already handed the evidence over to the authorities. In an hour, Frank, Sarah, and Paul will be in custody. And the project? The project is safe. More than that, with the departure of the internal saboteurs, we will have full support from the board for the launch." Mia hesitated before continuing. "If you still want to work with me, of course." Ryan did not respond with words. Instead, he embraced her with an intensity that spoke of months of repressed tension, restored trust, and something that had grown between them even amidst corporate chaos. "Mia," he whispered against her hair, "I should have never doubted you. Never." "I understand why you doubted," she replied, allowing herself to relax in his arms for the first time in weeks. "Ryan, they were very clever. They used our own insecurities against us." 3 hours later, they were in the main conference room of Tech USA, surrounded by the board of directors, company lawyers, and federal police representatives. Mia's recordings had caused an internal upheaval that resulted in arrests, dismissals, and a complete restructuring of security protocols. "Ms. Caldwell," said the board chairman, Dr. Henry Adams, "on behalf of the entire company, I would like to formally apologize for the unjust suspicion and the improper suspension. Your actions in the past few days not only cleared your name, but saved Tech USA from a corruption scheme that could have destroyed our reputation." "Thank you, Dr. Adams," Mia replied with dignity, "but I want to make it clear that I didn't do this alone. The Agritech project has always been a partnership, and it will continue to be." Ryan, sitting beside her, smiled with a mix of pride and something that looked very much like love. "Actually," he said, "I would like to propose a change in the structure of Agritech." "What kind of change?" Dr. Adams asked. "I want Mia to be officially my partner, not just in Agritech, but in all future company initiatives. Full partnership with equal shareholding and decision-making power to mine." Mia looked at him in surprise. "Ryan, you don't have to—" "I do," he interrupted, taking her hand across the table. "Mia, you've proven in the past weeks that you are much more than a talented employee. You are a leader, an investigator, an integral person who fought not only for your own reputation, but for the good of the entire company." Dr. Adams quickly consulted the other board members. "The proposal seems fair to me. Ms. Caldwell, do you accept to become a full partner of Tech USA?" Mia looked around the room, seeing in the faces of the executives the respect she had earned not only for her technical competence, but for her moral courage. "I accept," she said, "with one condition." "What is it?" "I want Robert, Carla, and John to receive promotions and substantial raises. They remained loyal to the project even when I was unjustly removed." "Done," Dr. Adams agreed immediately. 6 months later, Mia stood on the main stage of the largest technology event in Latin America, presenting the extraordinary results of Agritech to an audience of over 2,000 people. The platform had connected 15,000 small-scale farmers to consumers in 20 states, generating over $50 million in direct sales. "Agritech is not just a sales platform," she said to the attentive audience. "It is a bridge between two Americas that needed to know each other better. It is proof that truly transformative technology is not just for generating profits, it is for creating lasting social impact." Backstage, Ryan watched her presentation with a pride that went far beyond the professional. In recent months, their partnership had transformed into something deeper and more meaningful. 2 weeks earlier, he had proposed to Mia during a visit to a farmers' cooperative in North Carolina, at the same place where she had discovered her true passion for the project. And now, Mia continued on stage, "I would like to announce the next phase of Agritech expansion throughout Latin America, with a special focus on indigenous and heritage communities that maintain ancestral agricultural traditions." The ovation was deafening. Mia smiled, seeing familiar faces in the front row. Mrs. Johnson, who had become the official ambassador of the platform, Jessica, now the regional coordinator in North Carolina, and Dr. Edward Caldwell, who had become not only an investor, but a father figure she had never had. 18 months ago, Mia concluded, I received an invitation to sit at the table of destiny. Today I can say the table was not just for two. It was for thousands of Americans who were waiting for the chance to show their worth to the country. When she stepped off the stage, Ryan was waiting for her with a smile that had become her greatest source of strength and joy. "Ready to revolutionize the continent?" he asked, embracing her. "Ready for anything," she replied, "as long as it's by your side." 6 months later, Mia and Ryan married in a ceremony held at Mrs. Johnson's farm, surrounded by farmers from across the country who had become not just business partners, but family. The company had expanded to Argentina, Colombia, and Peru, always maintaining the commitment to value small producers and traditional communities. When Mia discovered she was pregnant, she decided that her child would grow up knowing their rural roots. Mia was visiting farms and learning about sustainable agriculture. The child would be raised between two worlds, the technological and the rural, symbolizing the bridge that her parents had built. 3 years after the first invitation to sit at the table of destiny, Mia was once again at a table. But this time, it was different. It was the dinner table of her own home, sharing a meal with Ryan and their 2-year-old son, whose first toys were miniature tractors and children's tablets that taught about sustainability. "Do you regret anything?" Ryan asked one night, watching Mia teach their son how to plant seeds in a pot. "I regret taking so long to understand that love and ambition are not opposites," she replied, smiling. "I regret almost losing you out of fear of mixing heart and career. And now I know that the best revolutions start when we stop separating who we are from what we do." Mia looked out the window, seeing New York shine in the distance. "Ryan, that table of destiny didn't just change our lives. It changed the lives of thousands of people. And this is just the beginning," he said, kissing her forehead. "Mia, you transformed a professional proposal into a life mission." That night, while putting their son to sleep, Mia reflected on the extraordinary journey that had begun with a simple phrase at a year-end party. She had learned that destiny is not something that happens to us. It is something we build through our choices, our courage, and our willingness to trust partners who share our dreams. The table of destiny had become much more than a metaphor. It had become a symbol that when two people sit together with genuine purposes, they can create changes that resonate far beyond their own lives. And as Mia fell asleep next to the man who had become her partner in life and business, she knew that the true revolution had not been technological. It had been personal, the discovery that love and ambition, when aligned with purpose, can transform not just two lives, but an entire country.